Which tweet was it, or what did you say that got you fired?
I think the final straw was the Holocaust tweet. And when I had posted it on you remember Twitter used to have or X used to have the fleet section, which is like the Instagram version of the stories. Well, I'd put it up there and I put it in my, and I was just kind of like, and I
actually like the fleet. I don't know why they got rid of it.
I like the fleet too. I don't know why
Bring
back the fleet, Elon. We like
fleet. Was great.
So this is the
zoom in a little bit, Rob.
Yeah.
The infamous tweet.
The infamous tweet.
Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited. Rob, I don't want an ad, Rob. Gina, because history is edited.
They're watching us.
Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views?
So if you just read that first part, that would be a messed up, thing, right? But when you read the whole thing and my interpretation, and what I would like to do is I'd like to put thought pieces out. I'd constantly put thought pieces out so that people would just get their mind working. And so my question was always and I think a lot of people thought this, before 2020, I never understood how a population of people could demonize a group of people and allow them to get, taken from right next door and shipped off to a concentration camp, and ashes are falling from the sky. And there's, I just couldn't understand how that could happen. And I've always been so fascinated with the World War II movies. They're some of my favorite. So in this tweet, I thought, this is something where I feel like if we keep demonizing each other, if there's this demonizing between neighbors, if you keep on doing that towards one another, we're going to end up in a bad place. And that was that's how my mind simply just read it like that. And then I didn't know, I didn't know that you get canceled if you bring up the Holocaust in any way, apparently.
When was this tweet, by the way?
I think it was in September.
September 2021.
Or no, 2020. Yeah.
September 2020.
Yeah.
And then how much longer after this were you fired?
I was fired February 2021.
Oh, so that's 5 months later.
And there was a lot of torture in that 5 months.
What happened during that 5 months?
Well, from the beep, bop, boop, which happened, I think, in August, it was just inflamed. It was inflamed, right? The whole, my whole experience, and it was inflamed. I was going through this massive struggle session. And, so I just finally they just stopped contacting me around, I think, after December. And I hadn't heard from them. And I was like, well, there's that.
Does your agent contact you and be like, hey, listen, they're not even, there has to be some type of communication, because you were even about to have a spinoff of your own show. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So I got a phone call from Jon Favreau. I think it was October or November. And they had told me, he had said, I was like, okay, what kind of conversation is this going to be? And he was like, it's all positive, Gina. It's great. Everything's good. You're going to be great. And I want you to know that your life's about to change, because I have written the pilot of Rangers of the New Republic, and it was okayed by Disney, and you're on your way.
What a phone call.
And it was after all of the awful things that had been happening, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is insane. This is wonderful. And I'm seeing, everybody's being very emotional. All my male co-stars, all of everybody's allowed to say their opinions online. So I stuck to continuing my opinions. But I don't think I ever said anything that was, I think that was the most intense that it got, which you could see something like that on, the Holocaust Twitter account, that's history, So, so he called me and told me that, and I was on cloud nine, okay, it's happening.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, so that's good news.
That was wonderful news.
October, November, but then what happened February?
February was that tweet.
Oh, you tweeted that September though, right?
Oh, no. Okay, I'm so sorry. I think September's the pronoun, the beep, bop, boop.
Got it. That's February.
That February 2021 was that tweet.
So how much longer after that was it instant?
It was the day, I think.
It was the day.
Like within hours.
And is this when they made the announcement where, you know, even I think Bob Iger came out, Gina Carano, Bob Iger comes out and defends the firing, the Mandalorian. We stand for our values. I think Bob said this.
Was that Bob Iger or Bob Chapek?
Could be Chapek. Let me see. It says Bob. Disney. Okay, this is Chapek because Iger's not back yet. Disney CEO defends Gina Carano's firing from the Mandalorian. We stand for values that are universal. Bob Chapek defends the firing, emphasizing the company's commitment to universal values such as respect, decency, integrity, and inclusion. Chapek stated, I don't really see Disney as characterizing itself as left-leaning or right-leaning, highlighting their focus on creating content reflective of the most world's diversity. He continued, yet instead, standing for values. Rob, can you pull up what percentage of the Disney executives give their money to the left or the right? Because that's public information when they say left-leaning and right-leaning, Mr. Chapek, with all due respect.
Yeah.
Yet instead, standing for values that are universal, value for respect, value for decency. Again, going back to the same thing. Carano's termination came after she likened modern-day Republican Holocaust victims in now deleted Instagram post. She wrote what we just read a minute ago.
Which was never posted. It was always in a story, and it was among a bunch of other, it was never deleted.
A post. It was a fleet that kind of expires 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Got it. Despite similarities in social media activity with co-star Pedro Pascal, who shared a post complaining Trump voters to Nazis, Carano was the one let go. So Chapek versus Kathleen Kennedy. How much of this firing do you think was Chapek? How much of this firing do you think was Kathleen Kennedy? By the way, is this it, Rob, in 2020? Yes. Right there. So that's the percentage of money they gave to the left versus the right. So if we take that, I think it's fair to say, Tom, 80% of the, 7.64 million. What's the other one, Rob?
It's not left-leaning. So
let's
it's fallen on the ground to the left.
Give me the number. 7.6 million plus what? Plus 1.4?
Yes, 1.42.
So 7.4 million divided by 9, 82% of their money goes to the left. So you are left-leaning, Chapek, based on how you give your money. And it's like somebody that, says, I don't discriminate between Starbucks and Coffee Bean, yet 4 out of the 5 coffee you buy at Starbucks. You prefer Starbucks coffee. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be public about it. So who had more power in you getting fired? Do you think it's Chapek, or do you think Chapek got so many calls from Kathleen Kennedy that she's the reason why you got fired?
You know, I think that is something that we're going to find out through discovery.
Because you're going through that right now.
Yeah, well,
Got it.
I mean, we have to get to the point where we get there right now. But we're going to find out. My question, I really can't wait to understand this one thing is, and you could probably pull up what they said about me, the comment that they said I was denigrating people off of cultural and religious beliefs, and that it was abhorrent. I want to know so badly who okayed that. That had to have been someone at the top that had to have been okayed because that was so damaging. And that quote right there was basically telling the rest of the industry, do not touch this person. She's off limits.
Wow.
Meanwhile, you have in Disney's plethora of actors, you've had, people be convicted of something, bad, and then they go on an apology tour that Disney, on one of Disney's channels. You've had,
Go back to that, Rob. Go back to that, Rob, because I want to make sure our audience sees this. I don't know if we put it up or not. Lucasfilm's statement from her firing stated her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Carano seeking damages to be... And this is February 6th, 3 weeks ago we're talking about.
No, they put that right out on, I think, February 10th was the date, 2021. Yeah.
When you got fired.
2021,
okay. Yeah. So now you're suing Mandalorian because of the statement.
But if you look at that statement, and then you go through everything that I've ever posted, and you go back through, I've had a Twitter account since 2009. I urge you to go through it. I'm sure they're combing through it right now. Comb through everything and see if that statement fits me. And it doesn't. 1,000% it doesn't.
So again, going back to Disney, Chapek, we stand by our values. The main one of the 4 is really the inclusion one, because the other 3, you're doing it. It's not like you're not doing it. But the inclusion, you're being, to their definition of what they got, as a left-leaning organization, Disney, based on 80% of their money going to Democrats, which, again, that's their position that they have. While that's happening, and they fired you. Afterwards, how many job offers you got? What calls you got? What calls stopped coming in? How did it directly impact you financially, lifestyle-wise? How dramatic was that?
I was, I was getting, screeners. I was getting invited to auditions. I was meeting some of like the better directors. I was going to the red carpets. I was, people were sending me stuff. I was just like there, it was just happening for me. And it was so exciting. And on that moment, on February 10th, it just dropped. And the only phone call that came in, the phone call that came in was from Dana White, which I've known him for a long time, and he texted me and he said, "Hey, Ben Shapiro's trying to get a hold of you," and I was in bed just bawling. I was just devastated, and Ben Shapiro's the call that came in.
Ben Shapiro's the call that came in.
The only one, yeah.
By the way, do you want to know something crazy?
You played poker with Ben Shapiro.
No, not at all.
But he did not put 25,000.
Rob, can you do me a favor?
But he is Lebanese.
Can you do me a favor and pull this up? Let me tell you what the craziest shit I just found. Can you do me a favor and pull this? Tom, you're going to flip out with this, specifically the way you and I look at business and finances. Pull up what I just sent you right now on the link. This is pretty wild. So the firing happens February of 2021, okay? Do you want to know the craziest data that's going to freaking blow you away? It's so awesome. Let me tell you how awesome this is. Pull this up. Check this out. Do you know when Disney's valuation was the highest ever in the history of its company? Go lower. Go to the highest point right there. Look at that. Go back a little bit. February 2021 is when Disney was worth the most ever. Wow. $341 billion.
Wow.
Compared to where they are today. Go to today's Disney's market cap. This is a little bit older. Go to Disney's okay, right there, $201 billion. They lost $140 billion from the day they fired you.
Wow.
I know that's not funny.
Well, it kind of is.
Is that not the craziest thing? You know what the market said? The market said, financially, after their how many busts did they have, Rob, just in 2023? Flops, 5 of them?
Well, 5 that totaled around $100 million in losses.
No.
I'm sorry.
$1 billion in losses. It was $900 million for flops, but the 5 is around $1 billion. The most Disney was ever worth was right before they fired you. So maybe it wasn't a good decision by Chapek. And when they did fire you, Iger had to come back, okay, because now they're trying to kind of figure out a way to make it work. Tom, do you mind kind of just real quick share a little bit on what's going on with Disney right now financially? I think it's very important now that we just shared this. What's the conditions of Disney right now financially with the reports that just came out?
Well, over a 5-year period, the stock is basically at zero. So if you bought Disney 5 years ago, you went on a little bit of a run, and you're actually down 5%. So you've lost 5% over 5 years. So that's not too good. That's not 10 years. That's like a near-term horizon. And this week, just the other day, they put.
By the way, you're saying 5 years. FYI, 4 years from February 2020. If we go from February 2021 to today, 3 years, you know what the case is? What's 140 billion on 340 billion? Let's kind of do that, okay?
Oh, yeah, and if you jumped on the ride in the middle of it, it's been a bad experience.
Well, let me do this. By the way, in the last 3 years, Disney has lost 41%. So if you put $1 million in, your $1 million today is what would it be? $590,000 today, 3 years later. That's minus 41. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, to put it in trend, so a 5-year investor is disappointed. A 3-year investor has an axe in at the front door.
Yeah.
It's the way it would go. So Disney's board of directors just puts out a letter. And every company, once a year, puts out a letter talking about people, hey, we're going to reelect our board members, standard stuff. The first line of the letter, The board has been laser focused on strategy that will drive shareholder value. In other words, stock price. That's the first thing. Not nice to see you again. Wow, what a year it's been. Sometimes the opening of these letters is a little bit fluffy because there's a little bit of marketing in there. And it says, so we're going to restore our dividend that we declared in July. We're raising the dividend by 50%. So if you own a share of stock, you get a couple bucks from Disney as a dividend to be a shareholder. They're increasing it by 50%. That's called a bribe. Disney says, and we're also buying back $3 billion of shares off the market. Why that? Because fewer shares on the market, supply demand. It means the price should go up a little bit, but it's artificial. It's not being driven by a hit movie or great success. So we're going to do that. And the next thing is, and we promise you, we're reining in cost so that we can cut $7.5 billion of costs by the end of 2024. Is there anything in there about theme parks or movies or entertainment? Nope. That was all of the first two paragraphs. You get to the back. There's nothing about we're confident in our entertainment business.
Future, so they're not selling the vision at all.
No, they're not selling.
It's not bright at all.
And then the last paragraph goes to war. Now, remember, there's a couple big investors, the Trian Group with Nelson Peltz and the Blackwells, who are both saying, hey, we really think leadership is the issue because you're an entertainment company and we don't think you're very entertaining. That's an accurate statement. So we'd like to nominate some of our people to be on the board, to be the overseers, to guide the ship. And so they said, please know the Disney Board of Directors does not endorse the Trian Group, specifically Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo, or the Blackwell nominees, and believes they are unqualified to serve on our board and preserve value creation. Double dumb.
Double dumb.
That's what they do. So they do that, and then they provide this little chart. There's a chart on the back. If you're listening on Spotify, you
love charts.
See this. This is a chart. There are 9 squares on the chart.
Do you have this or no? Okay, keep going, Tom.
There are 9 squares on the chart, and all of them are financial related to move the stock price. Cash dividend, 50%, $3 billion stock buyback, the things they said in the letter. You get down to the bottom, and there's one box in the corner of the bottom. We expect to reach profitability in our streaming business Q4 24. And also, by the way, we're going to do a $60 billion 10-year investment in our theme parks and cruise ships. And we're going to put more decision-making authority with creative teams. That's all they say. But there's nothing in here that we're excited about the movies in the front. And they brag about Academy Award nominations, but there's nothing in it about box office, nothing in it. At the same moment, this is called funny, the same moment, on February 26th. So what do you get as a shareholder there, Pat? You sit there and read this and you go, well, what are you doing about the movies? You've had all these movie flops and losses. You're not talking about that in your shareholder letter. What the hell? Well, at the same moment, literally the same day, within an hour, they announce Sean Bailey, who has overseen live action movies of Disney, is stepping down. He will leave the company. We are this is Wall Street Journal. You've got Sean Bailey stepping down, Wall Street Journal, and it was literally 2 hours after the shareholder. There it is.
Disney head of live action movie to step. This is not a lightweight guy that's stepping down.
No, basically what they're doing is what they couldn't say in the shareholder letter is that they have a strategy and they've got traction and things are going with movies.
Shit.
They can't say it. So instead, what do? They chop off somebody's head and they throw the bloody body into the street. Sorry to be graphic, Gina.
No, it happened to me too, so don't worry.
She's a fighter, Tom. She could take it.
I got thrown into the street. It's fine.
Exterior day, bloody executive rolls in street.
Yeah. Fade in.
It's a simple, it's a financial scene. Yeah. So he said Bailey would be succeeded by David Greenbaum, and then they talk about he was at Searchlight Pictures, and we're also going to combine 2 positions and the newly created role of combined studio group leader. So that's an hour later. And then the Wall Street Journal, who has had enough of this crap, comes out and writes an article on Jay Rasulo. You know, one of the guys.
Is that the one, Tom? That one right there?
Yep.
Okay.
Meet the former.
You can show this to the audience.
So it's in there. Remember, this is one of the guys that they say are unqualified to Disney's board. Jay Rasulo worked at Disney. He worked with Michael Eisner. He was part of Eisner's strategic planning team.
He was a former CFO.
He was a former CFO.
Which means he knows all the numbers.
That's exactly right. And he was brought by Eisner from Burbank to lead Parks. He launched Parks over in France, learned to speak French in 2 years so he could speak fluently with the team, crushed the returns, over 2,000% returns.
Go back to where you were at, Ron.
On Disney Europe. And
wait, what is that? Jay Rasulo recalls meeting with a high-ranking Communist Party official on the trip to, not to give up. Jay, keep knocking at the gate. Someday it will open. What?
He also spent time going around the world for Disney to open doors. And he apparently had a dinner with a Communist Party official, said, hey, about being CEO of Disney, keep knocking at the gate. Someday it will open. Now, Eisner retires and Iger comes in, and Iger says, look, I like you as CFO. I don't like you as COO. And that's it. We're done here. He said, be my CFO. And Rasulo came back a month later actually, and said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this anymore. So he leaves, and Rasulo, they throw a quote out. When, by the way, when Trian Group recruits him to be on the board, they throw out this. Disney spokesman. And later, it was, Iger was, I didn't say that. That is a position of the company. So a little bit of a wimp there. In our view, Jay Rasulo's analog perspective is not relevant to the challenges of today's digital world. So they're trying to make him seem like old school, uninformed. No. It's not like he was making movies in the 60s. This guy is a CFO who knows where the bodies are buried, and he knows how the math adds up. And so...
Ooh, look at this guy.
So
why is that scary for Disney?
He's killed 9 trees, just letting you know. But go ahead, Tom.
Why should Disney be worried today, Tom?
Because if Trian Group and their proxy get on there, why would Disney, inside Disney?
First of all, it's not just Nelson Peltz. It's 2 guys. Both of them are billion. One guy's worth $4 billion. The other guy's worth $1.5 billion. They got a lot of influence. They're sitting there saying, "What the hell are you doing with this company now? We're losing money. It's not doing the kind of numbers it was doing. You're forgetting who your customers are. Parents that are wanting to take their kids to movies to watch a movie. Kids are not your customers. It's parents. Why are you pissing off parents who don't want to take the kids to movies? For us, Tom, when we go to movies, you know what's the first thing Tico does? I'll say, Tico, go look up, what's the app, Fandango. Go see what movies are out. Tico will say, Dad, it's probably going to be movies that we don't want to take the kids to. Tico's 12 years old when he says something like this, okay? He'll go, and I'm being serious. You've been around Tico to know who he is.
I know.
Yeah, so he'll say, no, we can't do this. And he'll go look at the score. No, there's another LG. There's a trans character here. There's this character here. Even kids are starting to, I just want a regular flipping movie. Stop trying to brainwash me. This isn't working. So at what point will Disney realize this shit's not working, they got to change?
I think they know it right now, and I think they're scared to death that Blackwell or Trian is going to get somebody on the board. That's why they're trying to bribe shareholders.
Good for those guys.
Everything's okay. We're buying back $3 billion of shares.
Yeah.
We're going to give you a bigger dividend. It's okay. It's okay. Stick with us. Stick with us. As soon as those guys are in there, that basically everybody behind the curtain knows it's not working. It's just people are not strong enough to stand up to Kathleen Kennedy and the creatives that want to take a certain creative path. The minute these guys are on the board, all kinds of hell is going to break loose, and a lot of people are going to lose out, and there's going to be massive
question for both of you guys.
And Iger goes from the ride of a lifetime to writing a turd. It's basically what he's got in terms of performance right now.
I got you, Tom. So I got a question for you. So, and this is for you as well, since you're on the inside, you work with them. Who do you think has more influence in Disney? There's this book that John Maxwell wrote. I think it's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. One of the things he talks about is the law of E.F. Hutton. That back in the days, E.F. Hutton was the guy, he'd be in the room, and the main guy is the main decision maker, but the main guy would always say, hey, E.F. Hutton, what do you think about it? Okay, good. Okay, got it. So, hey, so what do you think about it? So eventually people realize that's the influence. He's going to E.F. Hutton to see what E.F. has to say. But like for Buffett was Charlie Munger, right? For everybody, there's somebody they go and say, what do you think? And that person is a very influential person. Who has got more influence at Disney? Do you think it's Kathleen Kennedy or do you think it's Iger?
Well, what I think, in my perspective, what happened is I think that these companies are so afraid of making maybe previous mistakes. And so they try to hire younger, maybe people with less life experience, and they want to stay current and up to date and ahead of the times. And so then they start, they've got the assistants, and they flood their companies with people who maybe have never even left the United States and never been somewhere and actually realize how wonderful we really do have it here. And I think that it's a game of telephone, really, that just starts crawling up the ladder. But then I also think, this is Star Wars. These problems have been happening for a long time. You can't take that responsibility away from the leadership, and you can't take that, on the Disney side and the Lucasfilm side. So I don't know how it all works. Is Kathleen Kennedy? She's obviously needs to be held responsible of Lucasfilm because she's been the leader. And then, on the other side, I think they're both responsible.
But who do you think has more? I'm looking at, if you pull up Kathleen Kennedy, the work she's done. By the way, I thought you were saying Kathleen Kennedy's young. I think you were talking about the assistant because
like the people that they hired. I think that they were I think they're just listening, and they're trying to be forward, but they didn't realize they were. Or maybe they did realize that, or either way, it's either that way or it's the opposite way. Like they're hiring a bunch of people they can control.
And which makes sense. By the way, just to give her credit on what she's worked on. Ready? This is Kathleen Kennedy.
Wow.
Thinks she's been the executive producer on Gremlins,
Poltergeist,
Back to the Future, The Goonies, Fandango, American Tail, okay? Back to the Future 2, Dad, Tummy Trouble, I don't know what the hell that is. Gremlins 2.
An American
Back to the
Tail.
Future 3. Yeah. An American Tail.
Bunny
Crazy.
Pit.
Cape Fear.
Empire of the Sun. Oh my
Schindler's
God,
List. She was the executive producer on Schindler's List.
Wow.
So she, Jurassic Park, Lost Words, Signs, terrible movie.
Must have been a sign.
I watched it.
When she was discovered, Pat, it was a 24-month period. I went back and I read about her bio. In a 24-month period, she went from E.T. to Indiana Jones to kick off her career as a frontline, top-line producer.
She did Munich, Tom. She did The Color Purple.
That was later. But those 24 months when everybody in Hollywood said, who is this woman? It was E.T. and Indiana Jones in a 24-month period. Talk about box office. Talk about merchandising. Talk about, good grief, Indiana Jones is a permanent ride. There's all these things that happen. And the rest of her career, she proved that was no fluke. So she's a professional in the industry. But
Does she have more influence than Bob Iger? That's what I want to know.
Well, I think she probably does now. And that was the point that South Park made in their parody. And all the voices in Hollywood. I mean, Trey Parker has been slightly conservative for a while. And he came out with that South Park evidence, the Panderdome, right? And all the whispers in Hollywood goes, yeah, that's the way it really is. And that's what I was noting. Not the fact that there was a parody, but all those voices were like, yeah, that's kind of the way it works there.
What did you think about when you saw with the South Park joining the Panderverse?
Oh, well, I did have a tweet about it.
A long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this is what's going to happen next. This is what I went through, basically. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of refreshing to know that people can see exactly what my experience was. And they're sitting there making fun of it, which I think, humor is positive. It was nice. It was nice I felt a little vindicated.
And Gina, and just going off of what you said, from everything that you've gone through, from the BLM stuff, coming to find out, George Soros back, they went broke. It was a scam. They stole all this money. Ridiculous, right? The trans thing, we're seeing more and more that it's like more of a mental thing. These people are, they have mental issues. A lot of them are doing mass shootings now. So now that's a whole different situation. And then the Disney, you're watching, you leave, they lose $100 billion because that whole thing. Does it kind of feel good inside? Like not necessarily vindication, but it must feel good inside your heart of hearts that you stuck to your guns and you were right this entire time. Does that feel?
It feels, I feel like I've been in the desert for the last couple of years and that hasn't felt good. But the part that does feel good is I am honest and I am clear and my heart is good and I was coming from a good place and that was very obvious. And I think that, so many people were watching what happened to me and they say, this is an innocent person here that you're destroying. You're going above and beyond to destroy this person. And I think that's why my case has had such an impact because it was so obvious. It was just so in your face. So for the last couple of years, it's been a desert, and it's been hard, but it's okay to go through the desert because then I got an email after I just realized, okay, maybe my life is going to be living in the desert now.
Yeah.
And I got an email from an attorney that said that they were representing X and that they'd like to look through my case. And I was like,
what a great phone call from John Favreau to now a lawyer from X going, I think we have something.
Well, they didn't know what I had.
Yeah.
They said, I want to look at what you have. And there's just been such, my life has been riddled with such incredible moments like that. I mean, incredible director Steven Soderbergh picked me up from fighting and gave me an awesome opportunity. John Favreau, incredible human being, amazing mentor, and really started finding my stride in acting. Ben Shapiro helped me out and he just took the sting off of it, right? Like I didn't take the cancellation away. We tried to really like puff up and say, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine. And it was a door open, but as far as me, I'm still very much in the desert. And then here comes Elon Musk. And I'm just like, who does this happen to?
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's real men in the world that have opened doors for me that it's just made my life so. For him to do this and X to do this for me it already has lifted this 1,000-pound beast off of my chest, because whether I wanted it or not, I was carrying around the shame of being fired. Nobody wants to be fired. And so I was carrying around, whether I was trying to like put on the brave face, I was carrying around the shame, and it was affecting me physically. It's been affecting me mentally. And then when I got that email, I responded like within 3 hours, and I'm like, I don't care if I seem eager right now. I said, yes, yes. I would love to speak with you. And then I got on the phone with them, and told them what happened, told them my story. They said, could you send us some stuff? I just sent them everything that I had, and they ended up speaking with X and Elon and explaining the story, and they really believe that we have an awesome.
By the way, I mean, this is when you're telling the story. When you're asking a question, do you feel vindicated?
Yeah.
You know what's the thing? Okay, so let's just say you get money. Fine, that's one thing. But you know what's annoying? What? It's like you have such momentum, you're peaking, and you want to work. Like, what is the purpose of money without me creating something, being part of something? It's so frustrating when you're at your peak and you're not able to create, build. You got stuff that's going on at your best. Like, that is so annoying.
When I'm working, and it always puts my dad in tears. It's the only time I see him in tears, is when I'm working. I am at my best because I'm consistent, and diet's consistent, work is consistent, my health, my mental health. And that's also why I was speaking out about the lockdowns too, because you get a bus driver who's been, driving a bus for 30 years and might have an addiction problem, and you're going to shove him at home and stick him with like all this reality of at home, and then he's going to start drinking again. And now we've got alcoholism. Now we've got deaths everywhere. So as an artist, I know what it's like to not work, and it's we need to work as humans, and it's really hard to kind of create your own work, which is what I'm doing now, finally. But I mean, it was devastating.
That's the part.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.